Well, the coalition would seem to be stuffed. The Libs and Nats can't seem to come to an agreement to get back together. And for different reasons, I think there are people on both sides of the fence who are quite happy for that to be the case. Nationals leader David Littleproud has made it pretty clear that he doesn't really want to work with Sussan Ley as opposition leader. At least that's what he was suggesting when the coalition was first blown up a couple of weeks ago. Now, he may have softened on that point a little bit, but I think there's still a feeling that he doesn't really trust Ms Ley and he'd rather work with a new leader. And on the Liberal side, there's a group of moderates of the view that the Nationals are basically what's wrong with the Liberal Party, that the Liberal Party has gone too far to the right or has the appearance of having gone too far to the right. And that's why they keep losing seats in the cities. He was Shadow Housing Minister Andrew Bragg on Politics Now yesterday afternoon.
I think the most important thing for the Liberal Party right now is to try and get its house in order. And our mission is to win more urban seats. We are a highly urbanised population here in Australia, and we hold less than 10 of the urban seats, and there's about 90, and we need to increase that tally. And that will happen if we have good policies and we can cut through.
Well, you cut through better without the Nationals.
I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. I think there's a way you can have a coalition which has worked in the past, could work again.
Now, he's being a bit coy there, but basically what he's saying is that the Liberals need to win metropolitan seats, which they do. But the problem, as he sees it, is that the right-wing policies of the Nationals, or even, God forbid, One Nation, are a drag on the Liberal Party. According to the moderates, and we've been hearing this line for some time now, but according to the moderates, if the Liberals are to claw back seats, they can't get rid of net zero and they can't get involved in culture wars. They basically just have to be Labor light. Liberal Senator Jane Hume even said this morning that the Liberals can get through on their own, that they don't need the Nationals or One Nation.
The Liberal Party can do this without Pauline Hanson. The Liberal Party can do this on its own because we need to fight the Labor Party who have let Australians down. The Liberal Party can do this on its own, but we need to make sure that we get our act together.
Good luck with that one. As I said, this idea that the right is a drag on the Liberals in the cities and suburbs has been pushed by the Wets for quite some time. And they seem to forget that the last time we had a moderate Liberal Prime Minister in Malcolm Turnbull, he lost 14 seats, quite a few of them in the cities. He won in 2016, of course, by 1 seat. And look, I will grant that the right has become a drag on inner city seats, where the Teals are now in charge, but have a look at the seats that the Liberals lost last year. Largely, they weren't inner city. They were suburban and outer suburban seats. And here's why the moderates are wrong, that they need to move further to the left to win those seats back. You would have seen the Redbridge polling in the Financial Review this week that put One Nation's national primary vote at 26%. But there was another breakout from that poll that didn't get a lot of attention, but I think it's vital to this discussion. This Redbridge poll found that in outer metro regions, One Nation is pulling 33%, which puts them above Labor at 31%. But I thought all these people in the suburbs were walking away from the Liberal Party because they were too far to the right. Well, better go and vote for One Nation then. The Electoral Commission defines outer metro electorates as being situated in capital cities and containing large areas of recent urban expansion. So we're talking about places that would have a lot of first home buyers, a lot of young families and also, presumably, a lot of migrants. Places like the western suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney. And their support for One Nation is surging. What does that tell you about what people think of mass migration, including, it should be said, a lot of immigrants themselves? Kind of shoots a hole through this idea that the problem for the Liberals in the suburbs is that they're too right-wing, and they need to realise that quickly if they want to stop bleeding to One Nation. The problem isn't that they're too right-wing, it's that they don't seem to believe in anything and they don't have a coherent policy platform. That's what's cost them so dearly at the past 2 elections. They're stuck in this fight between do we become the Teals so we can try to win back those inner city seats, or do we chase average people in average suburbs? And I'd say to some degree you have to forget about those inner city seats for now and you have to take the fight to Labor in the outer suburbs. These are people who really couldn't give a toss about net zero, but they do give a toss about their power bills. People who see and feel the results of mass migration every day, the pinch it puts on housing, the struggle to find a rental. the inability to buy a home, the schools and hospitals that keep filling up, the frankly ugly and barren developments that keep going up in order to give people roofs over their heads. People who are being left behind by Labor but don't see any vision or spine in the Liberal Party. Until now, their only option other than the Libs has really been Labor. But now they have one nation, and increasingly that's the way they're going. Just have a look at those polling numbers again. Labor has lost 9% in the outer suburbs. Add up One Nation, the Liberals and the LNP, in Queensland that is, and you have 52% of the primary vote. So don't try to tell me that the Liberal Party needs to go further left to win in the suburbs. And maybe the numbers would be higher for the Liberal Party if they weren't such a mess at the moment, hence why they're moving to One Nation. The Liberals need to look at these numbers and think long and hard about how they pave the way back to being a credible opposition again, if indeed they have it in them to do it.